sisters, so I bet they were just happy as heck, and you guys were happy too. But diagnosed with kind of a life-threatening situation back in January.
Exactly. Will was diagnosed with esophageal atresia, which meant that his esophagus was part of it was attached to his trachea, and the other part was just hanging there by itself. And so each time he would breathe or swallow any saliva, that was essentially going into his lung.
And you kind of do this, so you knew what to look for. It's kind of what you do.
Yep, the ironic thing is that's what I do every day at work is I look down esophaguses. So when given the diagnosis, it was reassuring but scary at the same time because ultimately I understand what that means if the esophagus is not intact. And so to get that diagnosis was quite shocking.
And, happy surgery went smoothly for little Will, but a few complications. He had to stay at the Bethel Hyde neonatal care unit for 53 days. You stayed with him in Sioux Falls that entire time. What was going through your mind as you stayed with him and as he battled his complications?
Well, a lot of it, of course, I don't remember because good thing the body's natural mechanism is to be in shock at first. I think that helps us get through a lot of the tough times. And, thankfully for our family, we have an army of friends, and they all stepped up and took care of the family at home. While I was down there, some days I couldn't even talk to anybody, not even my own family. And so my friends back here helped immensely with my other children that were home, and just all kind of rallied around. The support was overwhelming. People that I hadn't talked to in years were messaging me and praying for me, and it was overwhelming, the support we got from the whole city, actually.
It's awesome. And I got to tell you, after 53 days, what must have been going through your mind when you finally found out that, hey, everything's going to be okay?
Yeah, I was beginning to think that I would spend the 4th of July out on of our room. There was a little roof with rocks on it, and some of the doctors used to joke that they'd put a grill out there for me in the summer because some days we just thought that, this was never going to heal up. His surgery went perfect. One of the easiest repairs that Dr. Reichman's ever done, he said. But what happened after that is there was a leak where they sewed the two ends together. And so everything was going again into his lung. And chest tubes don't work the greatest on babies. And so he ended up having 5 chest tubes. And, so there was a lot of ups and downs. Each week we would go for a swallow study to see if that leak had healed, and each week there was a lot of anticipation from people at home. They'd all want to know how it went, and when I'd answer the phone and they'd hear my voice crack, they would know the answer that it hadn't sealed up yet. So we would wait a week in between, and it was just heart-wrenching when that leak was still there, and I could just see it on the x-ray. He'd swallow the contrast and it would go out into his lung, and it was just such a hard thing, disappointment each week. But then one day, things were looking good. There wasn't much drainage from his chest tube. We were all hopeful that the leak had sealed up. And, that day I just kind of knew that was his day. And I had a rosary in my pocket from a friend that had brought it from Rome. And then I had a good luck charm because it had just been St. Patrick's Day in the other pocket that lit up, and I guess I'm kind of superstitious, but I turned on the road to go to the hospital, and I remember the most beautiful sunrise I've ever seen in my life. It actually blinded me. I almost had to stop in the road, and I just started to cry. I just knew that was his day, and I knew that leak was going to be sealed up, and it was, and that was a very happy day. And Will bought the whole NICU pizza that day because we had joked that we were going to do that if that leak had ever sealed up. And 3-4 days later, he was eating, and we were on our way home. And after 53 days of not drinking a bottle, a lot of babies lose their sucking reflexes and are not able to drink from a bottle, and sometimes require a feeding tube. But I guess I knew from the way he had sucked on his pacifier in the NICU that he was going to drink from the bottle, and within 3 days he was up to full feedings, and and it was just shocking how fast we were on our road home then.
It's just amazing to me, too, the little things that almost all of us take for granted. Like you just mentioned, they lose their sucking capability. I mean, I would never think of that in a million years, but it's great to have the castle down at Sioux Falls, Sanford Children's Miracle Network. Talk about your relationship with the staff at Sanford.
The staff at Sanford, if anybody knows me, they know I'm kind of a customer service freak, and if there's something wrong, I'll definitely let you know it, because that's how I want to perform in my job. And the staff there was superb. I mean, I don't think there's a NICU around like that in this whole country as far as I'm concerned. They were just wonderful, from the doctors to the social workers, the nurses. I still keep in contact with several of them. And, you know, when you're sitting in that NICU, you don't want to look out of your room because you feel like you're, you know, peering in on somebody else's room. So your ears become your lifeline. You listen for people that are familiar to you coming down the hall. And you just hope that they stop in and just say a few words. You know, while I was there, I was alone a lot of the time. And so, you know, a nurse or a doctor just coming in to visit and say a few words sometimes made my days at that NICU. You know, I sat there and I didn't read a magazine, a book. I don't know what I did that whole time, but it went fast, and the people there definitely helped me through that difficult time.
I'm thinking, looking back at it now, it does seem like it went really fast. At the time, I'd have to imagine the days had to drag on. They had to just, you know, kind of drag on. 53 days, nearly 2 months. What we're looking to have is 2 people to be a miracle maker right now. So if you could just throw out those phone numbers, Stacy, for us, and let people know how they can be one of 2. All we're looking for is 2 people right now to be a miracle maker. The phone lines are as follows:
725-6677 or 1-877-825-0388.
50 cents a day. 50 cents a day. I mean, that doesn't take much to find that.
No, not at all. You know, the Children's Miracle Network helped us a lot down there with just something as simple as, you know, here's a ticket for your meals, something you didn't have to worry about. I'm a person who never really carries cash, and so that came in handy. And there's so many things that the network does. You know, like the bed that Will was in for 49 out of his 53 days. That the Children's Miracle Network helps get all of those beds. They're like $40,000, and I think they have 38 of them, state-of-the-art beds. And so I know a lot of centers only have 2 or 3, and so for that alone, it's amazing what the CMN can do.
There's laughter. I know he's... Any complications long-term for Will?
No, we are following him closely with the surgeon, and he'll see a gastroenterologist just to kind of plug him in the system if he would have any problems down the road. Usually these kids have a little bit of slower motility in their esophagus, but his seems to be fairly good. And, you know, they have to chew their food a little bit more than the average person, and probably won't be much of a hot dog eater, unfortunately.
Well, I guess there's worse things in the world, but Stacy, we really stopping by before your work day, bringing in cute little Will here. He looks just happy as can be. So we're
Thanks, Jay.
That's Stacy Schriver and son Will, and he's got 3 older sisters at home who I'm sure are just doting over him hand and foot and every minute of the day. So call right now, and we're looking for 2 of you to be a miracle maker in honor of Will's struggle and his success and his battle. He's fought it at 11, well, he's 7.5 months. He's a fighter, so he's one of 2 miracle makers right now at 725-6677 or 877-825-0388. And I think it's fitting, too. If I would have had Will closer to the microphone, he was all with the ladies here, you could have heard his live giggles, which were just absolutely amazing. Let's take a giggle break. This one brought to you by Cost Cutters of Aberdeen.